Welcome back, folks. This is the history segment. The uncanny results from this year's midterm election reflects the elections from some 70 years ago, going all the way back to FDR. Maury, a lot of people that don't look back at history, don't know history. History to them was this morning, and
yesterday.
We're doomed to repeat it if we don't. The midterm elections was a significant drubbing, but we've seen this played out before. Explain.
It's uncanny. In 1946, Harry Truman had succeeded Roosevelt, who died on April 12, 1944. He was not a popular president. He's become more popular in the distant aspects of history.
As time rolls on.
Exactly. But Harry Truman, he was disliked by the unions. He broke a union strike. He had no friends. When he left office after finishing his full term, 48-52, he had a 23% approval rating. He was just not a popular guy. Well, what happened was in 1946, the Republicans, for the first time since Roosevelt took over from Hoover, was elected in 1932 and took over on March 4th, 1933. This is the first time that the Republicans actually got back into power. Not by a lot, it was by a few votes in the House and I think one or two in the Senate, but they actually were in a positive situation. Well, they felt pretty good. They thought, that they were going to now start making changes and doing things and getting, into foreign policy. Well, nothing happened. Every time the Republicans came up with ideas, good ones, whatever, Truman vetoed everything the Republicans ever came to bat with. Well, then when he decided he wanted to run for a full term in 1948 against Tom Dewey, everybody figured, he wasn't going to make it. And then he came out with a wonderful idea.
He ran against Congress.
He said the do nothing. He came up, the one thing he did, the do nothing Congress. He called it the do. Well, show me one thing they did. And Republicans, I guess, at that time were a lot like Republicans lately. They didn't know how to react, and they didn't fight it back. They got tagged with a do-nothing Congress. Well, as it turned out, that election was a surprising election because they thought Truman was still going to lose. But if he didn't,
wasn't that the New York Times that said Dewey wins, or
no? That was Chicago Tribune. They came out with a headline story saying Dewey wins election. And they were a little premature. And H.V. Kaltenborn was a great prognosticator at that time on the radio. And he said, when the votes come in from the farmlands on the usual conservative, you will see that Mr. Thomas E. Dewey is the new president of the United States.
Wrong.
Well, he was wrong. But the point was, I see an uncanny similarity. The fact that, the Republicans now, who didn't do very much to win this election was an anti-Obama election, feel pretty good about it. As you and I discussed, I actually feel it was stupid to get together between the Republican leadership and Obama, but that's something else. So the point was, I think the same thing is going to happen. Unless the Republicans show some muscle and some strength that I don't see yet.
The only thing I can say that's different about today than 1946, absolutely. You had 3 networks or 2 networks that were completely biased. You had a few newspapers, they were all biased too. You didn't have the internet, you didn't have the outlet, like you just said, communication. You didn't have that. Now, if you bring something to the president's desk and he vetoes it, the American people are going to be aware of it.
No, but I have to dispute you on that. They're going to be aware of it, but they're going to sell the idea when the time is over and he has vetoed everything that the Republicans have brought to the table. People will remember another do-nothing Congress. I'm sorry. That's as much as they mean. There's so many bad things that Obama has done in the last 6 months, the year. You know, we IRS, Benghazi, whatever. The point is, people forget very quickly. As you're right, there's a lot of communication going on, but there's a lot of forgetfulness going on. And I'm afraid unless McConnell and Boehner show some real toughness and are willing to fight this guy tooth and nail, I think he may just be able to get away with it.
And so if he does that set up 2016 to go back to a Democrats because the Republicans couldn't get anything accomplished?
Well, not necessarily, but it'll be a weak point. The Republicans will say, well, listen, you guys had the Congress. You wanted the Senate. We gave you the Senate. You had the House. You were able to do all those things, and you got nothing done. Yeah, but they forget about the fact that there is such a thing as a veto, and the veto can only be overridden by 2/3 of each house.
And don't you think the power of the purse should become an effective tool by the Republicans? And John Boehner has not done this since they've had control of the House for 4 years. He's really not stepped in and cut the spending. Spending comes from the House of Representatives.
That sounds a little naive to me, because of course, by constitutional means, that's where the financing for the budget comes from.
So that shows that he has no toughness.
It shows an unwillingness to implement something. Look, when you got a person with a very dictatorial desire to get something done, and using every trick in the book, like the Germans, like Hitler and the Germans, the same thing. Hitler didn't do everything overnight.
We have 30 seconds left. That story you told me about Hitler wanting to bomb or blow up the subway, tell that story.
Hitler was so angry at the German army and the people because he saw himself being surrounded, and he knew
the end was near.
The end was near, and he blamed the German people. He even said that the Eastern people are stronger than the German people, and he had ordered the military to blow up the Berlin subway, to blow it up with all the people in it, and it was canceled, fortunately, even at the threat of a death sentence if that was found out. But it was also near the end. So the point was, he was such a demagogue and so full of himself and so hateful that he said, if you don't do it my way, I don't care if the whole country goes to hell.
And this is what happens when you have a vindictive, angry, stubborn little brat that gets put in his room and told for time out.
That's exactly right. You've done it, you've said it, and that's the way it is.
That wraps up another edition of the World Report. If you want to see the show again or catch a segment that you possibly missed, the easiest way is just go to our website, theworldreport.org. For more Beschloss and all those wonderful, exceptional folks in the United States Armed Forces who volunteer to keep us safe, I'm Scott Crowfoot, and God willing, we'll do this again.